Discovery. Invention. Passion. Challenging economic norms to save our planet. We take a look at the critical role of entrepreneurs. Hello, I'm Anand Naidu, and welcome to CGTN America's Global Action Initiative 2022 on sustainability. In September 2015, the United Nations adopted 17 Global Sustainable Development Goals, a universal call to action to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure that by 2030, all people enjoy peace and prosperity. But government can't do it alone.
Innovation of the private sector, the energy, the creativity has a major role to play in finding solutions. It isn't about looking at future technology. We need stuff that can be done and implemented right now.
Time is of the essence, and the UN General Assembly has recognized the importance of entrepreneurship to sustainable development by addressing environmental challenges through innovation and economic growth. Later, we'll be joined by several entrepreneurs working towards a more sustainable future. But we begin with the big picture. The International Institute for Sustainable Development works with others to support biodiversity and healthy ecosystems. Here's President and CEO Richard Florizon.
When it comes to nature and the biodiversity crisis, there's no time to waste. At ISD, our experts have learned a few things over the past 3 decades, working with dozens of partners and peer organizations on these issues. But perhaps most importantly, I'd like to flag 3 key takeaways. First, we need a strong financial commitment from governments to support nature-based solutions and infrastructure, conservation initiatives, and other proven measures to safeguard our ecosystems. And as we talk about this, we also need to talk about climate finance, because tackling these challenges together is far more effective than treating them in isolation. The evidence is clear. Financing nature-based solutions isn't just the right thing to do, it also leads to better outcomes across the board, including economic outcomes. Building with nature, whether it's a green roof or a seawall or mangroves, is on average 40% more cost-effective and creates 35% more value than relying solely on traditional infrastructure. Second, we must ensure that economic decisions serve to protect biodiversity. This is critical. Nearly $2 trillion US per year is currently going towards subsidies that directly or indirectly harm the environment. Let's start putting money in the right places and stop putting it in the wrong places. One immediate way that we can do this is by encouraging governments to ratify the new WTO Fisheries Subsidies Agreement and put it into practice. My third takeaway, final takeaway, is we need to make sure that conversations about these crucial issues involve everyone affected, that we're inclusive, that we hear voices from all social groups, especially girls and women. Civil society must play an active role, and we need to engage all levels of government, from local municipalities to international policymakers. We already have examples from across the world of how international cooperation can make a difference. For instance, as China plans out its domestic and foreign policies with the goal of advancing sustainable development, it's been seeking input from experts through the China Council for International Cooperation on Environment and Development, which ISD is the secretariat. We have the knowledge, we have the resources, and we can scale these solutions quickly. But we need everyone working together to make it succeed.
Climate change has led to more frequent extreme weather events. Jürgen Sattler with the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development tells us about a new initiative designed to help communities in poor and vulnerable countries recover faster from climate disasters.
Almost every day, we hear in the news about natural disasters, the wildfires in California and in Spain, and the recent floods in Pakistan and China, and also in my own country, Germany. These events are causing enormous losses and damages in terms of lives, livelihoods, as well as the destruction of infrastructure. Unfortunately, they are here to stay. This is the new normal. Even worse, the climate projections by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, show a sharp increase in the frequency and intensity of extreme weather events. Also, slow onset events like rising sea levels. By 2030, climate change-related losses and damages could already have pushed an additional 30 to 130 million people into extreme poverty. Low-income countries and small island development states are especially at risk. Therefore, we urgently need global collective action and solidarity. Germany has put forward a concrete proposal, together with other countries, in particular the V20, which is a group of 58 vulnerable countries. This proposal is to build a global shield against climate-related risks. This global shield aims to provide systematic, coherent, and sustained financial protection for vulnerable people and countries. Countries assisted by the global shield will receive comprehensive support in understanding and covering the risks they are facing. The Global Shield will not only provide immediate assistance, build resilience, and thus minimize the impact of extreme weather events on lives, livelihoods, and infrastructure. It will also allow us to gather experience and to learn. I really hope that more development partners, in particular bigger polluting countries, will contribute to the Global Shield.
According to the World Bank, we generate about 2 billion tons of municipal solid waste annually, with at least a third of that not managed in an environmentally safe manner. That's expected to grow to 3.4 billion tons by 2050. Enter Triciclos, the company co-founded by Gonzalo Munoz, providing solutions for the treatment of waste and recycling. A passionate environmental consultant and COP25 high-level climate champion, he joins us now from Vienna in Austria. Gonzalo, great to have you with us. You have talked about growing up in an environment where you were taught the basics of nature. Well, tell us more about that. What did you learn, and how did it get to what you do today?
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you today. I'm very aware that I have the privilege of receiving some basic connection to nature, and not only to nature, but also to the impact that we humans generate while we develop ourselves, and in the way we have progressed as a species. On one side, I have the privilege of having grown in the countryside with my grandfather, who was a farmer and who taught me a lot about how to relate to nature in that sense. But also my mother was one of the first social entrepreneurs in my country, in Chile, in the early 80s, where we were still struggling with the government at that time, and there was not much more of initiatives mobilizing social and environmental topics. So I learned on not only the importance of how to relate to nature, but also the possibility of developing my own agenda, my own initiatives. In my house, of course, we were all the time, as I said, since the 70s, the 80s, separating the different types of materials, of course, taking care of not only the plants and the animals, but also very concerned about water, how to compost. So things that nowadays are much more common for certain people and families in the world, for me, were very evident and natural 40 years ago.
Now, you co-founded your company in 2009. Today, it's one of the most recognized companies when it comes to recycling in Latin America. But how difficult was it to found the company in 2009, at that time when issues like sustainability, the environment, they were not very high on the agenda at that time?
I kind of first failed on being a social entrepreneur, trying to change the way certain companies that I was managing were potentially solving the negative externalities. And then I went through some very tough moments in my life. I decided that was the moment to start something new. In this case, with two friends, we started Triciclos. And the idea was not only to try to help to reduce the waste that was going into the environment, but also Triciclos is a word in Spanish that refers to 3 cycles, meaning trying to balance the finance impact with the environmental and social impact that businesses can have, and therefore trying to generate a business model that will have profits as a consequence of having done the things in the right way and always taking care of trying to solve the externalities. This was 2009, and as you can imagine, we were just going, we were like in the middle of the Lehman Brothers crisis, and it was so evident for us that there were so many problems in relation to how we define success in business, how we reward sometimes the wrong behaviors, the wrong business models. At that time, we were called crazy, nuts. I mean, what is this about? But also not only in terms of the proposal in general, but when it came to waste, still in many places of the world, it's almost free to dump a ton of waste in the environment, whether it's in a landfill or in the ocean or even burn it, right? It took us quite a long time, I would say 4 or 5 years, to start positioning the idea of not only solving the waste problem once it's generated, but first go upstream and try to solve the waste problem when it is designed. So we have to think about what are we using, what are we buying, what are we designing, with business model are we establishing, and then we will reduce the amount of waste and it will be much easier to handle it and to reduce the impact in the environment.
Do you find that there are more companies, more entrepreneurs around the world who feel the same way as you do, who experience the same kind of passion, same kind of ambition?
I have no doubt. I witnessed that firsthand. We will not have development if it's not balanced when it comes to the relationship with nature. There's simply no way. I mean, if you have even a small level of understanding of how a natural environment behaves, we need to solve it. It's simply as, if not, there will be no possibilities for us to feed ourselves. If we do not balance the way we relate to nature, a product as simple as bread will not be possible to be produced. You can produce greens and lettuce in a vertical farm in a city. You will not be able to replace thousands of hectares of grain products in the world simply with technology. We need to balance our relationship with nature, or this is game over. So that means that we're under risk, but there are so many great opportunities for those entrepreneurs that will embrace these possibilities and will offer the best possibilities for us to move forward. And those companies will receive the right reward through their profits.
What do today's entrepreneurs need to know, to learn, to be successful?
Well, I would say connect to any challenge and difficulties that we're confronting when it comes to a crisis that is generated by one simple math. It's 8 billion people living in a finite planet. Connect to that. Connect to the limits that we have been trespassing, and therefore you will see that there are opportunities when it comes to technologies, business models, communities that require certain service, problems that need to be solved. My recommendation most of the time is fall in love with the problem. Fall in love with the problem and really try to understand it as deep as you can. And you will find not only potential solutions, you'll find peers, you'll find a community, whether it's in the private sector, but also in the public sector, NGOs, citizens all around the world that will require to be served with a certain solution. And that will bring you the possibility of not only success when it comes to the metrics that you will define, but also, of course, financially, but also personally. It's really gratifying to be able to work in something that is not only allowing you to live from it, but also knowing that you are providing solutions for many people in the world.
Gonzalo Munoz, thanks for joining us. According to the UN Environment Programme, 300 million tons of plastic is produced every year. To put that into perspective, that's nearly equivalent to the weight of everyone on Earth combined. But most plastics are not biodegradable. In one graphic example, an estimated 25 billion plastic straws are used in Europe alone each year, with as many as 8.3 billion polluting the world's beaches and oceans, posing a threat to wildlife. The Happy Turtle Straw Company is offering an innovative solution. Joining us now is co-founder Nat Wong. Nat, great to have you with us. You've been in the business now for 2 years. What inspired you to focus on straws?
I was strongly inspired by this video that I'm sure millions of people have seen, of that turtle that was found with a sea turtle that was found with a plastic straw in its nose. And it was really a shocking video that inspired me to try to find a solution to that so that it would never happen again. And so we developed a solution that is a new generation of straw made from rice and tapioca, which is even edible. That is 100% safe for the environment and for marine life.
Now, there are alternatives to straws out there. How is the one that you manufacture more environmentally friendly?
What we can see today is a lot of alternatives, such as paper straws or other type of straw, which are made of bioplastic, sometimes called PLA. And they all have advantages compared to plastic, of course, but they're not neither the right or the perfect solution. If I talk about paper straw, I'm sure some of you have tried. You know that they become soggy after maybe 10-15 minutes, which can cause a little challenges to drink a drink. And also it can affect a bit the taste of the drink, which is something the consumers don't really like. In our case, our straw can last for more than 2 hours. They can you can use them to sip them for more than 2 hours. Plenty of time to drink a mojito. And also they don't have any taste, so we don't use any chemicals in our straw. It's all organic.
In addition to your straws being biodegradable, as you pointed out, you can eat them, you can consume them, and there are no side effects or anything like that, right? They're
Absolutely. It's like cooking spaghettis. It's just made from rice. So I'm Vietnamese, and we have a special dish that maybe some of you know called pho, and it's actually quite similar. It's actually also made from rice, and I even cooked myself some spaghettis with my straws for fun, and you can eat them totally safely. They're even FDA approved.
So did it require a lot of research and development?
Well, it's interesting because when you look at the machines that are used to produce our straw, they're not so different from the extruders that are used to produce pasta. So it's just a matter of mold and, of course, some little technical difference in the production process. But at the end of the day, when you have one of our straw in your hand, it looks like you're holding some pasta in your hand.
Now, your business model, it not only includes replacing plastic with biodegradable straws, but you also want to clean up the world's oceans. You were talking a moment ago about that very sad, tragic picture we see of the turtle with a straw in its nose. But tell us about this effort to clean up the oceans.
We support organizations that protect endangered turtles. in all the countries where we are starting to sell our straws. So since we started in Switzerland, we already have a non-profit that we support here that protect endangered turtles, not sea turtles. We don't have the sea in Switzerland, but turtle that lives on the ground. And actually, we have an indigenous turtle called la cistude in French. I'm not sure in English. And it's actually endangered because some turtles from Florida have been invading the lakes and are causing danger to the local turtles. So this organization has an incubation program to incubate eggs and release them in the nature when they reach adulthood to repopulate this endangered species. And we want to replicate this model in all the countries where we will sell our straws in the future.
What kind of business potential do you see in this transition to a green economy for entrepreneurs like yourself? I mean, is this, in your view, still a market that is largely untapped?
It's largely untapped. All the alternatives so far that are designed to replace plastic, when I look at paper straws and bioplastic, for me, they are half solution. I think as of today, we need to make sure that anything that is single-use, that product that actually could fall down in the ocean for one reason or another, should cause absolutely no harm to the environment and to the animals. In the cases of paper and bioplastic, it can still cause some harm. It contains chemicals for the paper. For example, there's still glue in the paper. There's some ink that we use that is not necessarily natural. For the bioplastic, it could take 50 years to decompose in the oceans, which is still shorter than with plastic, but it's still plenty of time for animals to find them on the way. And in our case, when our straw fall down in the lake or in the oceans, actually it becomes soft enough and the animals can feed from that. So we're not even helping to protect the environment, we're also potentially able to feed some marine life.
That sounds great. Nat Wong, thanks so much for being with us. According to Bloomberg, plant-based foods could reach nearly 8% of the global protein market by 2030, with a value of over $162 billion. Global restaurant chains, plant-based market leaders, as well as health and sustainability benefits are driving the adoption of alternative food options. And while alternative meat companies have been getting much of the attention, there is another option: fish. 3.2 billion people around the world rely on it for protein. A company called Current Foods has developed plant-based options to replace consumer favorites like bluefin tuna and salmon. Joining us now is the company's founder and CEO, Jacek Prus. Jacek, great to have you with us. So talk to us about your journey from animal rights activist to entrepreneur, in particular to plant-based seafood.
Most of us care about the environment and we care about animals, but sometimes it's hard to act on that in the near term. And, that's what our products do. Our products are designed to taste so good that it doesn't feel like you're making any sacrifice. And that's what's needed for the entire food industry to be changed, is there cannot be a compromise on flavor, because the supply of fish, globally, has been dropping. It is fish are a finite resource. You could even, as an animal. And we pulled out 70% of the sharks and rays out of the ocean as bycatch, as byproducts of industrial fishing. So it's a pretty big problem, but that is a very big opportunity.
Well, if we look around, we see the vegan lifestyle has now gone mainstream. Was it difficult for you to start off with what must have been at that time a very unique concept?
There was some difficulty. There's always a question of why aren't other people doing this? And the reality is, the products aren't good enough. But there was also a lot of enthusiasm. That to your point earlier, we could see how big this market is. We could see how big the challenge is. And most great things, especially companies, are really difficult. They come with a large opportunity that we're able to get, and because of that, we could get some pretty great venture backing and, financial support, but also incredible teammates, teammates who have a lot of experience in this industry and space to carry the day.
Now, when you market this to customers, when you try to convince people that this is the way to go, I mean, you probably get asked questions like, what about nutritional value? Do you get the same nutritional value?
Consumers are looking for sustainability, and frankly, we are the most sustainable seafood that anybody's going to get. And we have a huge, check on that box for people. And on the nutrition front, yeah, we're actually very healthy. We have, great ingredients. We have omega-3s, and that's DHA and ALA, and that comes from the algae oil, also the sunflower oil. High protein product is actually going to be hitting the market in the next 8-9 months, where we have the same amount of protein as salmon, and that is really hard to do, actually. And we got B12 in the product, so that's always great. We have iron, so a high amount of iron that you wouldn't find in the conventional animal product. But there's always optimization. I mean, we can always get more protein. We can always get other nutrients as well. So we're looking at that a lot.
And Jacek, from a business point of view, of course, you're looking at expansion. Stanford University did a study which says that global demand for fish is going to double by 2050. But I guess the challenge for a company like yours is to convince people to change their habits.
Yeah, it's a great question. There's a huge aspect on how you present a food. If it's presented as, vegan tuna for vegans, you're going to really miss the mark with a lot of people, because first of all, at least in the United States, it's only about 3-4% of the population that fully identifies as vegan, right? And some people will see that vegan thing and they'll just be like, it's not for me. So there's a way to present products in which you show them that they're for everyone. And usually the best way in the marketing front is to talk about taste. I mean, you look at like the McDonald's and Burger King commercials, that's what they do. They show a delicious product and they don't talk about anything else. And so that's a real big portion of our marketing, is just let the product speak for itself. Let people try it. We've done dozens of blind tastings where people didn't even know what the product was, that it was plant-based. And they literally couldn't tell the difference. It's quite incredible. So there's a huge component where it's presented, we like to say current salmon, current tuna. And obviously on any packaging, you're going to know it's plant-based. Really, the product has to be good enough. That's what it comes down to. It has to taste good enough. It has to be cost efficient, which we are. We are cost comparable to the animal counterpart. Mm-hmm. Incredibly difficult to do for other alternative proteins. And once people try it and they don't have that bias, they say, hey, this is good. I'll eat this,
In the long term, how much of an impact can switching to plant-based foods have on the environment?
Oh, wow. I mean, it is quite massive. So if you look at carbon emissions, we have in the seafood industry, people think sometimes it's always clean. It's not. If you look at bottom trawling, where they're dragging nets on the bottom of the ocean, kind of indiscriminately pulling a lot of things out of the water. You're already looking at it. The latest study showed 1.5 gigatons of emissions. That's quite a lot. Switching is not only great for obviously keeping animals in the wild, which now account for 4% of the biomass, where now humans and the animals we raise are 96% of the biomass. But they also help keep the environment healthy from the stand of emissions. And dairy and beef is definitely a huge one when you look at emissions. It's a choice that we make every day, usually 3 times a day. And it's probably the biggest choice we make on impacting the emissions we generate.
Jacek Bruce, thanks so much for joining us. For more of our GAI content, you can check out our website or scan the QR code with your mobile phone. Our special coverage continues. Up next, the premiere of the CGTN America documentary, Sustainable in Latin America.